This morning we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 12, Birth of Emperor Parikshit, text 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayana Namaskrityam.
Naram Chaiva Narottanam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tato Jamudirayat
Tato Jayamudiraya.
Nastabesya Bhadresu
Nastaprayesu Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
Now the verse 1:12:26. We wait till it's on the yeah. It will come on the boat now. Next. Perfect. Rajarsinam Janayita
Rajarsinam Janayita.
Sasta Sotpatagaminam
Shastra Chotraminam.
Nihahita Kaleresha
Nirayita.
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat.
Rajarsinam Janayita
Rajarsinam Janayita.
Shasta Sotpatagaminam
Shastra Chotraminam.
Nihahita Kaleresha
Nirayita Kaleresha.
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat.
Rajarsinam Janayita
Rajarsinam Janayita.
Shasta Sotpatagaminam
Shastra Chotraminam.
Nihahita Kaleresha
Nigrahita Kaleresha.
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat.
Rajarsinam Janayita
Rajarsinam Janayita
Shasta Chotpatagaminam
Shasta Sotpatagaminam
Nigahita Kaleresa
Nihahita Kaleresha
O Dharmasya Karanat
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat
Rajarsinam Janayita.
Rajarsinam Janayita
Shastra Kopatagamina.
Shasta Sotpatagaminam
Nigrahita Kaleresha.
Nihahita Kaleresha
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat.
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat
Rajarsinam Janayita.
Rajarsinam Janayita
Shasta Chotpatagaminam
Shasta Sotpatagaminam Nihahita Kaleresha
Bhuvo Dharmasya Charita
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat
Rajarsinam Janayita.
Rajarsinam Janayita
Shastra Chotpatagaminam.
Shasta Sotpatagaminam
Nigrahita Kaleresha.
Nihahita Kaleresha
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat.
Bhuvo Dharmasya Karanat. Now we have the word for word translation. Raja Rishinam, of kings as good as sages,
Kings as good as sages,
Shanayita,
Nayata,
producer,
producer,
Shasta,
Shasta,
chastiser,
Chastiser,
Cha,
Chala,
and
and
Utpatagaminam,
Patagamina,
of the upstarts,
of the upstarts,
Nihaita,
Nayata,
molester,
Molester,
Kalehe,
Kale,
of the quarrelsome,
of the quarrelsome,
Esa,
Isha,
this,
this,
Bhova,
Bhuma,
of the world,
of the world,
Dharmasya,
Dharmasya,
of religion,
of religion,
Karanat,
Karna,
on account of
on account of
translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. This child will be the father of kings, who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome. Purport. The wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. The sages are called wise men, and there are different types of wise men for different branches of knowledge. Unless therefore the king or the head of state is the wisest man, he cannot control all types of wise men in the state. In the line of royal succession, in the family of Maharaj Yudhishthir, all the kings, without exception, were the wisest men of their times. And so also it is foretold about Maharaj Parikshit and his son Maharaj Janamejai, who was yet to be born. Such wise kings can become chastisers of upstarts and uprooters of Kali, or quarrelsome elements. As will be clear in the chapter ahead, Maharaj Parikshit wanted to kill the personified Kali, who attempted to kill a cow, the emblem of peace and religion. The symptoms of Kali are wine, women, gambling, and slaughterhouses. Wise rulers of all states should take shelter from Maharaj Parikshit in how to maintain peace and morality by subduing the upstarts and quarrelsome people who indulge in wine, illicit connection with women, gambling, and meat eating, supplied by regularly maintained slaughterhouses. In the age of Kali, regular license is issued for maintaining all of these different departments of quarrelsome people. So how can they expect peace and morality in the state? The state fathers therefore must follow the principles of becoming wiser by devotion to the Lord, by chastising the breaker of discipline, and by uprooting the symptoms of quarrel, as mentioned above. If we want blazing fire, we must use dry fuel. Blazing fire and moist fuel go ill together. Peace and morality can prosper only by the principles of Maharaj Parikshit and his followers. I repeat the verse again. Rajarshinam Janahita Shasta Chotpatagaminam Shihahita Kaler Esha Bhuvudarmasya Karanat. This child will be the father of kings who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome. Om Ajnana Timannasya Chinansana Sanakya Sakshan Militam Yena Tasmai Sigurve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupakadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shio Vandeham Shiro Shiyuda Padkamalam Shiram Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shri Vishakam Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Chatpati Gopesha Gopra Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gauri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavani Sati Devi Pranamama Haripriya Pankha Kalpta Vishake Pasin Vavisa Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Nama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Paskachai Desatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki Yudhishthira Maharaj is hearing all these predictions of the newborn child and he feels very happy, assured, because this is always an anxiety of an emperor like Yudhishthira Maharaj, who will be the successor and will the successor be qualified? And hearing all these statements, he feels pacified, and because the Pandavas in chapter 15, we will hear how the Pandavas retire. That how they retire means this is after Lord Krishna has left this world, and Arjuna is coming back with the news that the entire Yadu dynasty has been vanished. And Krishna left the planet. But yes, Maharaj Parikshit is considered a Mahabhagavat. Krishna wants a Mahabhagavat as the ruler of the entire world. This is not an ordinary devotee. It's an exceptionally qualified devotee. But it is said the child will be like sages, that he will be very wise. But that is a general characteristic of a devotee, to be wise, because this transcendental knowledge described in Bhagavad Gita is not easy to understand. There are conditions to understand this knowledge. That in 4.3, Krishna says, Arjuna, you can understand this knowledge because you are my friend, you are my devotee, you are sinless, therefore you can understand. So to understand this knowledge, one must become a devotee. That otherwise, because we have different kinds of knowledge. We have mundane knowledge, and we have transcendental knowledge. And to understand transcendental knowledge, you must first develop divine qualities. Otherwise, you cannot understand that. And that is interesting that when I did my PhD at University of Wales, I met many scholars and they knew Bhagavad Gita. They could quote verses of Bhagavad Gita that, but that's nice. But they could not understand that they are not his body. That they could not understand. So what is the value? That is, you have Jnana and you have Vijnana. That how to get this Vijnana, we explained yesterday, Tesham Satyuktam, Pachtam Pitavovakam, Dadami Bodhiyogam Tam Yenamam Vapyantite. Krishna gives it to the heart. That is the process. It's not going to the brain. It's to the heart. And the heart is the soul and the super soul. Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness means following the dictations of the super soul within. That's where realized knowledge comes from. And that knowledge is natural in the spirit soul, but it's now covered by the covering of the modes of passion and ignorance. That we sing every morning, Nas prayers about Nityam Bhagavata Sevata, Bhagavata Tamasake Bhakti Bhavati Naisiki. That means that by serving the pure devotee and by rendering service to the pure devotee and hearing the Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart is destroyed. It's nearly destroyed, it said, because that's explained in the next verse. What does that nearly means? In the next verse, it is said that how does the next verse starts? That the modes, the translation is that the modes of passion and ignorance are removed from the mind and the heart. Passion and ignorance. And when it comes to goodness, Rajo Tamas Tamobhava, yeah. It's a naswees about his unity and Marifla Sevia, Upadekshun to Tegram, Karnas tot Production. Tatorjas Tamobhava Kamlup said Siasite, Seteriter, Anavitam Stitve Satve Prashidati. The modes of passion and ignorance are removed from the heart, and when it comes to goodness. But goodness is also an obstacle. Therefore, it says nearly. Then from goodness, in goodness, you can understand Jnana, but not obtain Vijnana. Jnana, in goodness, we can understand things as they are. But how to go to Vijnana, Mamsir Vyabhicharana Bhakti Yogana Sevata Sakaton Samatichitam Brahma Bhuya Kalpate, by performing devotional service. Krishna says that in 1154 of the Bhagavad Gita. At the end, it shows the universal form, and then it says to Arjuna, this beautiful form, this form can only be understood through Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service. He says pure devotional service. That's such a Mahabhagavat is in pure devotional service, not Sakam Bhakta like the demigods. They also want to serve Krishna or Vishnu, but they have a desire to control the universe on behalf of the Supreme, but still it's a material desire. Therefore, when Bhumi went to complain to Brahma, Brahma with the demigods went to Svetatdvip at the beach, and far, far in the ocean was Lord Vishnu, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. They could not see, but they tried to communicate. Only Brahma could communicate. That he only could get a message, because he only was a pure devotee. The demigods are Sakam Bhaktas, and therefore he doesn't give complete satisfaction to the heart. So this is to get knowledge, because it's always we think, yeah, what do I take with me to the next life? This jnana you will not take with you. Okay, you may memorize Bhagavad Gita. In your next life, it will be still in your subconsciousness, and very quickly you will memorize Bhagavad Gita. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he was 7 years old. He memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. But, I traveled as a brahmachari with Prahlad Maharaj. He memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita. Not only the Sanskrit, not only the English, also the purports he knows. He knows what's in the purports. That once I was traveling with him in Serbia, and we had an evening program, and he was going to read from Krishna book, and it was a home program, and he was asking, do you have a Krishna book in English? And said no, only in Serbian. And Prahlad Maharaj, he said, no problem. He started to recite a chapter for memory. The gopis feeling of separation. He was just reciting it from memory. But this memorization you don't take with you is the realization. And that realization is given by Krishna in the heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikaveye. That is a process to get this realization. Then we can say, what's realization? What does it mean being self-realized? Well, when I was followed the Bhaktivedanta course, then it was Bhujam Prabhu was one of the teachers, and he said, someone asked Bhujam Prabhu, are you self-realized? And he said, yes, I'm self-realized. I realized I'm a complete nonsense. That is self-realization. That's a signs of getting the knowledge, getting the Vijna. So that's important. We get realization. Therefore, just reading Prabhupada's books is good, but it's better to discuss this with devotees, because through the discussion, there is an exchange of realization, and you learn from that. So it's always, we hear a verse in the Bhagavatam, that's good, but then we have to consider what is in the verse, what is in there for me that I can apply. Very important. You have the theoretical knowledge, but then how to apply it. What does it mean in my life? How am I going to apply it? So if we hear Maharaj Parikshit was a wise sage, then we ask, how can I also become wise and get this realized knowledge? That's important. Because we hear about attachment. Like 35 years ago, a devotee would say something nasty to me, and I would be disturbed. Sometimes for weeks, for months, I would be disturbed. Now we are 35 years later, and that may happen again. And I will still be disturbed for 5 seconds and I let it go. That's a difference. We think, yeah, what's my realization? That you hear every day the Bhagavatam, you start to understand the futility of material life. But when I became a devotee, or I tried to become a devotee, then I understood that dying for materialistic people is real, because everything what they think will be finished. But the devotee realizes, I'm not his body, I'm not his mind. I'm an eternal living being, and this is not my home. That's a complete different realization, a complete different perspective on life. How to act as a spirit soul and not as the body. And that's the mission of Maharaj Pariksit, to educate everyone in the spiritual knowledge. And to educate everyone, one must have realization. Maharaj Pariksit saw Krishna in the womb of Uttara, that worldling is clubbed to protect him. And once you have seen Krishna, you cannot forget. Rupa Goswami gives a warning: don't go to see this three-banded form at Keshi Ghat, because if you see him, your love for your society, family, and country, and so on, will be finished. Finished. Once you become attracted to Krishna, your material life is finished. Lord Chaitanya, he was traveling in South India, and somewhere or other it displeased a Brahmin. It displeased the Brahmin. And the Brahmin said, I curse you that you will never be able to enjoy sense gratification. And Lord Chaitanya was very happy. Because that is not the goal of life, and a devotee knows that. So the wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. Even a simple devotee is much more intelligent than the greatest scholar at the university. Because here I realize I'm not his body. And that is not given to everyone. That it is said a devotee is very rare, very rare. In Bhagavad Gita it said among thousands of men, who even of thousands of men who knows about liberation, who knows how to become liberated. Even amongst 10, only one may become a devotee. Because liberation is not self-realization. Liberation is quite easy to obtain in that sense. But a devotee must first get liberation and then develops love for Krishna. It's Paramatma realization and then Bhagavan realization. These are much higher realizations. And that is what nobody can understand, this transcendental knowledge. So Krishna complains in Bhagavad Gita in many verses. In 7:13, he says that I'm above the three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And no one knows me in this world, he complains. Also in the beginning of the 10th chapter, Nate Vidu Suragana, he says, even the sages and the demigods, they don't know me because I'm their origin. But Krishna says how to know him. Bhakti amama bhijanti yavyasasmi tatvata tatamam tatvatorata vishate tat anantram. So you can know me just by unalloyed devotional service, but there is that it's unalloyed devotional service. Because that brings also up unalloyed devotional service. That my heart is contaminated. Can I perform unalloyed devotional service with a contaminated heart? Then we have to hear from Rupa Goswami. Iyayasya aredasya karmanama nasakri Nicholas apavashtasya jivan muktasa uchyate. He says that if one uses one's body, mind, and words and all convictions in the service of the Supreme Lord, one is implicitly liberated. Jivan Mukta. That, so it depends. What's the message here for us? That we have many desires and material desires and so on, that's okay. But one desire must be prominent and must get a priority over all desires. And that is to please Krishna out of love. That should be prominent. Krishna said in Sutta Goswami, Sukadev Goswami said that akama sarvakama from moksha kama udarati tivrena bhaktiruna chaita purushampa. That, but we are full of material desires. Have no material desires or desire liberation. One should tivrena bhaktiruna with great force. In the one should perform devotional service. That and gradually all these material desires will come, but that must be on the foreground always. The motivation with which we do things is very important. Cultivating this pure desire to please Krishna without asking something in return. Like Lord Chaitanya said, at the 8th verse, Aslishiva Padamara Prinastramam, this verse of Sikshastikam is the mood of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani said that whether you are present for me or whether you are not present for me, that whether you break my heart or not, I still will love you with all my heart, and that is the mood. Otherwise, when we are and to the gradation that we have this pure desire we will feel satisfied in the heart. That if we are performing devotional service with material desires, the satisfaction will not be deep. That it's mentioned in, of course, Shatur Vidyabhajantamam Yechna Sekretarina Arta Shikhnasha Arta Tijana Sabaratarshava. 4 kinds of people with material desires approach Krishna: the distressed, the curious, the desire of wealth, and those who want to know the absolute truth. That we all come to this movement with such motivations. We don't have the pure, but by hearing the Bhagavatam, we hear the importance of that. And that is this is the mission of Maharaj Parikshit. He wants everyone to bring to that level, but everyone is not ready for that. Therefore, he must establish the Varnashram. The Varnashram will only give us a peaceful society, but it needs strong Kshatriyas to protect the people, not just to protect against bodily harm, but also to protect them against deviations, and especially protect them against all these sinful activities that in the next chapter, as explained here, we will see how Maharaj Pariksit meets Kali, who is to abuse or mishandle a cow. And we will see. Immediately he took his sword and was going to finish him. But this is necessary. Today we see these wars going on all over the world, and we see, like Tolstoy said, as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will be battlefields. And all these people who are fighting are meat eaters, all of them. We see that the reactions are very, very severe. And they try to stop it, but they cannot. It has to be worked out. The reactions have to come. And it's the beginning. If we see every day, also in the United States, millions of animals are killed every day. So what reaction will come? That it has to come, the reaction. But also, first thing is instruct the people so that they stop these sinful activities. That's the first thing. Both are going on, but they are not stopping it. It's still going on. That's the first thing. Stop the contamination. And then work on the purification, which is the Varnashram system. The same thing, when we chant Hare Krishna, we have Krishna in the mind, it's the same. When we have Krishna in the mind, it's mentioned in Shiras Upanishad, Krishna is antiseptic and prophylactic. It's antiseptic because when you have Krishna in the mind, then you become purified, Chadliv, of these material desires. The same with hearing the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam is Krishna. The same with the chanting of the holy name. That if we have Krishna in the mind, he's antiseptic, he will purify us. But he's also prophylactic. Prophylactic means a vaccine. That it protects you against new contamination. And that is what Maharaj Pariksit wants to do on the level of the society. He wants to get out all this contamination that comes in, stop it, and get a peaceful society in which everyone cooperates. What is the purpose of Varna Ashram? Is Haritoshanam, pleasing the Supreme Lord. And that's the beginning, this Varna Ashram. We have the ashrams we go through, all, but it doesn't matter whether you are in the sannyasa ashram, brahmacharya ashram, grihastha ashram, vanaprastha. We have all the same goal. An ashram is meant for making spiritual advancement. And on what level we are, we work on that. It's not that the brahmachari or the grihastha is higher than the brahmachari or the vanaprastha is higher. No, it doesn't matter. As long as we work on our purification, and so we must maintain our ashram pure. That I remember it's more than 20 years ago, some devotees started a petition for the GBC to change the 4 regulative principles into 3 regulative principles. Yeah, that was going on. That illicit sex, of course. To allow sex within marriage, also not for the procreation of children. That was the point. And my Guru Maharaj said, Bhakti Sharma Maharaj said, if they do that, they will not be able to make spiritual advancement. Finished. Because you don't stop the contamination. It has to be stopped. That purity is the force. But the Grihastha ashram is as good as any other ashram. As long as we are making spiritual advancement, as long as we hear the Bhagavatam, that chant, associate with devotees, worship the deity, it's all for our purification. Krishna does not need our service, but he gives us all these facilities, because that's Krishna's mercy, that he left this planet, but he's still here. Sanatana Goswami says that in his clarification of the Bhagavatam, that Krishna left this world, but he remained in the form of the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says at the end of the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto, that in the purport, one must know how to extract Krishna from the pages of the Bhagavatam. So that is so Krishna left, but he's still here in the form of the Bhagavatam. He's still here in the form of his holy name. He's still here in the form of his deity. He's still here in the form of prasadam. That these are all very. These are the 5 most potent items of devotional service, which are mentioned in Nectar of Devotion. But Maharaj Parikshit was a very strong ruler. But a strong ruler, there are conditions. Here we see, the first is a Mahabharavat. It's not an ordinary devotee. It's a self-realized soul who is going to rule. So that's the first thing. One must be qualified in that sense, but one must also be very strong to cut down all upcoming contamination. But a Kshatriya, he was always working under the guidance of the Brahmins. He's not independent. He followed the instruction. We see Maharaj Parikshit was asking so much advice that finally, we heard that in the previous chapter, Bhishma Dev instructed him. Because Maharaj Parikshit was thinking after the battle of Kurukshetra that yes, millions of Kshatriyas practically had died just to bring me on the throne. I will go to hell. And even Krishna tried to console him, but he could not. But he instructed him to hear from Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev, he fell on the 8th day of the battle of Kurukshetra. So he was lying there for some weeks, and all the blood was out of his body practically. But he got a blessing that he could die when he wanted, if he wanted. Krishna instructed Bhishma Dev, you speak to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and instructed Yudhishthira Maharaj during many days on the battlefield how to rule the kingdom. according to the Varnashram. But he told him that you think this battle was fought to bring you on the throne, but here before us you have Lord Krishna. And it was Lord Krishna's plan to bring you on the throne, because he wanted a Mahabharat to rule the kingdom. So you should follow Krishna's instructions and rule the kingdom according to the instructions. You should do your service now. So that is always a consideration of a devotee, that what is Krishna's plan? I have to go with Krishna's plan. And we see also it was Krishna's plan that Maharaj Parikshit would become the emperor. It was Krishna's plan that he would be cursed by Shringi after so-called offending Samika Rishi, but was finally not a big thing, but he was cursed, and Maharaj Parikshit will, his reaction is, from his reaction to being cursed, we can understand something more about his being a Mahabharat. He was cursed, and the first thing he said is, this is the most wonderful thing, he said. That, of course, today's newspapers, they would write, most unfortunate thing, king cursed to die in 7 days. But he was thinking it's the most wonderful thing. Now he was thinking, now I can give up my attachment to my army, to my treasury, to my queens. I can all give it up and just sit down at the Ganges or the Yamuna to chant the glories of Vishnu, of the Supreme Lord. But then he was sitting down, waiting, was chanting, and suddenly sages started to arrive from all over the universe to be with him. And Maharaj Parikshit said that, why did you come? That sages normally they don't want to associate with a worldly king. It's like they keep away from it. Why did you come? That and they came with money. But then he was asking them, well, what is the duty of a man about to die? And that's the beginning of the Bhagavatam, that question. But he asked these sages, and he got different answers for each of them, because they were all disciples of Srila Vyasadeva. And Srila Vyasadeva, because Kali Yuga was coming, their memory was going back. And therefore he divided the Vedas on all the knowledge and gave different parts to different disciples, and they were all saying their opinion from their parts of their part of the Vedas. But then, of course, Sukadeva Goswami appeared, and Maharaj Parikshit asked the same question: what is the duty of a man about to die? And then the second canto starts, in the beginning of the second canto. And the first thing he says is, the first thing, Sukadeva Goswami said, he used the word variant. This question is very good. Most materialistic people, the materialistic householders, they are not asking this question. And we see most people don't ask this question. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? What's my duty? especially at the time of death. Nobody asked this question in this world. That means, yes, everyone is stupid. No knowledge. But anyway, that then Sukadev Goswami said, Tasma Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Ari Shotafya Kirtatapyasya Smartya Eva Shapram. He says, the duty of a man to die is to hear about Krishna, glorify Krishna, and remembering Krishna. That is our duty. That's what we are now trying to do also. Therefore, the Bhagavatam class is so important. That so Maharaj Parikshit will be glorious in many ways. He will be the hero of the Bhagavatam, and he will attain perfection. At the time he is so cold, his body is killed by this bird snake or whatever it is. But these are the glories of Maharaj Parikshit, and it's a different society, a different social structure, different organization. It's the perfect state that we see. Capitalism is certainly not a perfect state. It gives more individual freedom, but so much criminality, so many things that certainly it is not a perfect society. And then, yeah, and then the communist society. In some sense, it's a little closer to our ideals from the Bhagavatam. It's because they say everything belongs to the people. We are saying everything belongs to Krishna. That's the difference. But still, the individual initiative is practically completely gone there. It's also not good. That how does that come? How did these forms come about? So you have
one thing too is with these, they were looking for a system that separated God from government too, because a lot of these rulers who were before democratic in the West, they always claimed that their rule comes from God. You know, I'm in charge because God put me here, or like because I'm in charge now I speak for God. And I know that the mentality with a lot of democratic peoples also before this was to take away that power from people who claim it comes from God. So then they abuse that power, of course.
Yes, certainly it's not perfect, but in the Vedic system you have the Kshatriyas. They work under the Brahmins. That and then you have the Vaishyas. They have factory the capital and the money, the Vaishyas. And then you have the Sudras. That what happened when Shringi was cursed? Shringi cursed Maharaj Parikshit, I mean, and he was 7 years old. He was the son of a Brahmin, but at that time Brahmins were very powerful. They had the power to curse. That so at that moment, that means that was the beginning of the fall down of the Brahmins. And the Brahmins started to act independently for their own selfish desires, and they lost their humility. Shringi was not at all humble. Lost their humility. A Brahmin is humble, otherwise he's not a Brahmin. It's not. But the Brahmins became puffed up thinking that I'm becoming a Brahmin by birthright. But they became Brahma Bandhus, Tvicha Bandhus. And what does a Kshatriya do when he meets a Brahmin who is not humble, who is proud? He cannot stand it. He rejected these Brahmins. And that is what happened. The head was gone, and the Kshatriyas started to rule for their own sense gratification, practically. But then they started to rule and exploit everyone. So the Vaishyas said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We have the economic power. We have the money, the capital. We will rule with that. We will rule with that economic power and give advantages to this Kshatriya, which we like, and not to the other. And that's the beginning of capitalism. They rule with economic power. We see that clearly today, clear with ruling with economic power. And but then the Sudras, they felt exploited in that system by the Vaishyas. And they said, that cannot be. We start a revolution. We take over everything for the people. And communism was born. By that you can see how communism and capitalism are degraded systems of the Varnashram. That I always remember that Sotra Swami used to explain that more than 30 years ago in that way. That's true. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. Any question? Any question on the internet? No.
But later in the purport, it says that the heads of state should rule like Maharaj Parikshit, should cut down the miscreants. But in fact, in today's society, we see the opposite of that. So what role do devotees or we as an organization play when we face things like this?
Yeah.
Should we become a Kshatriya?
The first thing I would say is, let's organize our own societies. Let's start this Varnashram projects and get also our own men of our own territory for protection and so on. Cultivate that. Starts with our own. If we are not making it on our own, if we are making it on our own, then people will come and say, oh, that's nice here. That we see that also in Hungary, so many people come to study this project. I would say that is the first thing but otherwise, what is our influence? Spreading Krishna consciousness. That's our function. And the more we spread Krishna consciousness, the more we will be able to implement these principles of good governance. Because this point you are making, yes, it's what can we do about it? Not much otherwise. But people start to wonder, because when Prabhupada was here, a police officer came and asked Srila Prabhupada, how is that possible? You have done this all these hippies who were taking drugs were addicted to so many sinful activities, and they gave it all up. How do you do that? He was asking advice. How can we avoid criminality and diminish this drug addiction and so on? That Prabhupada explained him all this principle. But yeah, to apply that, that's a big thing. Because where is the issue? That the thing is that when you become a devotee of Krishna, people think, oh, these are poor people. They cannot do what they want. They cannot drink beer or alcohol. They cannot eat coffee, no sex. Well, that is poor people. What kind of life do they have? And that's what most people think. But from the moment you give this up, you become peaceful and happy and are less controlled by material nature. And that they don't get, that they are controlled by their minds. They are the slave of their minds. We are not the slave of their minds. So explaining this philosophy, we can try, but there is, even to understand that, like I said in the beginning, is difficult. So we cannot just change society, that the material world is meant for those who want to forget Krishna. And they come here to enjoy. And that's their purpose. And Krishna is created the material world for that. But we can only try to get a few of them out. Some devotees ask Srila Prabhupada, what would be the greatest success of our movement? Prabhupada said, if 2-3% of the people become Krishna conscious, that will be our greatest success. So we should not expect to turn this material world into Vaikuntha, but Maharaj Parikshit did to a certain extent. Because there are always people, because following Varnashram is Haritosana, because just by following the system, but it's not directly connected with Krishna. Then you have to go to the ashram. And it's not for everyone. And anyway, that's what I could say. Good. Thank you very much. Shantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.